Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How's your day going? You can see sunshine behind you, which is good. Hey, Jarv.
Yeah, it's great. I'm in my co-working space finally again, which I think wasn't there since a few months already. And now it's starting to be great to go out of home and working somewhere else. It's really cool.
Nice. And how is second location, Robert? Like you're proper out of home, new location.
Yeah, I'm at my parents' house in Virginia. We came here on Saturday from San Francisco, so a bit of traveling, getting in. It's going well.
Nice. Have you like got back into traveling? Have you like mastered it again?
It's hard to say. I got like very bored very quickly on the airplane. I was like, this is maybe not what it used to
be. Yeah. Everyone in London's like, because now we've got pubs and restaurants and things open. People are like, oh my God, I've forgotten how to use these things. Like I was reading an article in the paper this morning and we have QR codes everywhere for our track and trace apps. And also pubs and restaurants are using QR codes so that you get like at table service. And she was saying, oh, I just spent 20 minutes like trying to order a pint from the NHS track and trace website. It's just like it can be chaos here. No one knows what to do. Awesome. So I think this is all of us. So let's get started. So I've dropped in MTTP. Just one little thing I want to note on that. Like I think the actual MTTP target is completely unsurprising after last week. We are now seeing deployments on here. I'm going to follow up and just dig into where those are being tracked from. I'm not sure what the count is. It looks like it's probably right, but I just want to double check that it's actually production deployments on there. So I'll double check on that one for you as well. Few announcements. Is there anything on there that anyone wants to discuss, follow up on? Nope. Okay, awesome. So first discussion item. So Robert may win on this one for literally sending me an MR like a minute ago. But yeah, it's like got quite a lot of release docs, I think are either a bit out of date or very out of date, or we've got new tools that we haven't got in there. So just as we kind of look at getting Graham trained up, as well as for the rest of us as well, but it'd be good to get those updated. What do you all think to finding 2 hours in the next week to just do a bit of a clean up and see what we can get through?
I don't want to participate in this line item because I'm already doing this for the API service and I'm tired of reading and writing.
How about, what about, so I guess there are two times, right, when this stuff it's super easy to make docs updates. One is you've just literally made a tool change, right? So that's one. And the other is, I suppose, like either as a release manager or as you finish being a release manager, it's when it's super fresh. So should we try and tie it to work instead? Would people prefer that?
I prefer that. I think if we made that as part of the acceptance criteria for the work that we do, that would be tremendously helpful. Like not every piece of work is going to invoke a documentation change, but certainly some of it will. And I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to keep our documentation up to date.
So could we make sure we add that into reviews? If you review something, obviously if you make a tool change, please try and remember to update the docs. But also if you're reviewing a tools change, please could you check there is documentation as well.
Maybe add it to the merge request template as a checkbox item that we could take off.
Yeah, the hard part is just remembering that, like, hey, this new piece of functionality completely invalidates this old documentation we had somewhere else, which I think we're seeing now with some of the coordinated pipeline stuff in the release docs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was going to have a little play around and see whether we might actually want to think about structuring the docs differently and have them more like, I'm deploying, or like deployment failed, or like I'm dealing with an incident, because I think there are kind of different, at the moment we kind of just have a pretty much long list of things, but maybe you're actually more like dealing with certain events that have different types of docs.
Yeah, that's interesting. More of a situational type index almost.
Mm. Okay, how about one other suggestion then, which is if someone asks a question, so Skarbek and I chatted a little bit about this last week, like if someone asks a question, like try and respond with a doc. Because there's a couple of things about our docs, I think, which is one is like we either haven't got them, or the other one is they're really hard to find. So if you can't easily find your answer in the docs, that's also a really good indicator, even if it's in there, right? Would somebody be willing to update the AMER template? That's a good practical suggestion.
Do you mean the AMER on release tools?
Yes.
I don't think we have a template on release tools, do we?
Interesting. Okay, so that could be a good start, right? So is somebody willing to create one?
I could do that.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Cool. Okay, cool. But please, if you do have a bit of spare time this week, I know Skarbek's reading a lot of other documentation, but if you're not reading any other documentation, please find an hour or so just to check over our release tools docs and see if there's anything that you can see that could be updated. I think there's an awful lot of stuff we've changed this year, so. Awesome. And then on B, I wanted to just give a little bit of visibility on this one. So thanks for everyone for efforts so far in opening up incidents, handling all the toil that comes from this stuff, and also retros. So I know it does add work. There are, I've put an idea in the deployment blockers reporting thing, so which might help us like reduce some of this toil. It may not, but for now I wanted to just say, please keep going on this stuff. Like in the next couple of weeks, I think we will see a lot of it because it's 14.0. Also, lots of people are watching this because it's 14.0 and we're seeing lots of interruptions. So people are reading this stuff and like it is raising a lot of visibility of the pain. So even though it might seem a bit pointless to have to keep raising incidents, please do that. And we can hopefully automate a lot of this stuff quite soon. Awesome. C is you, Skarbek.
So we've had this interesting situation where we've got a change to a feature that is trying to be pushed into a patch release, which goes against our policy. And I've had to escalate this to Amy. I feel like we have a gray area in our in our documentation where we don't clearly define what a bug actually is. And I think the person who's been trying to push this is trying to put the word bug in a few different locations to try to help encourage that we push this into a patch release. I think the situation where this warrants a patch release for the safety of our customers is warranted, but the method for which this violates our policy is not warranted. So I'm curious as to what language we could use and maybe also improving release tools to help us police items that have the pick label to ensure that we're picking the right items. Another example was a similar merge request to this where a pick label was added, but it's not actually fixing a bug. It's just changing some language inside of the documentation inside of our code, which should not have been picked, but is fine because it's similar to a documentation change by chance. But I think we've stumbled upon a situation where people are overusing the term bug in this case to apply it to a process or procedure that would negatively impact customers. But that's not what our policy dictates. And I think we need to modify our language to make that more explicit. That way we prevent situations where we're trying to push something in place unnecessarily, or vice versa, we allow it. Because currently I'm trying to push back on this because it is a change to the feature and how it works, not necessarily a change to the implementation because it was seemingly not developed correctly from the get-go from my perspective. And I'm curious as to what thoughts other people may have on this.
I think it might be interesting to have a look at, like, I think it sounds, I wonder if it would be enough for chat ops to validate the labels on things, kind of like, you know, when we do security mergers, we get kind of additional information about the MRs. I wonder if something like that would be helpful, where it's kind of like you have, because what I'm wondering is, in a typical patch release, what mixture of things are we actually putting out? I'd be wondering whether every MR actually has a bug label on it normally. I suspect it may not, either just because it didn't get added or docs things, or I wonder what combination of different things we have in there.
Well, release tools is definitely going to be looking for the pick label. And I think there's some other validation, making sure it may have been merged as another item, but I don't think we're looking specifically for feature or bug labels. And I think if an issue is labeled bug and it's got a pick label and it's been merged, I think it should be safe to be pushed into that patch release. If it's got the feature label, then it should not be picked. And if someone adds the bug and the feature label along with the pick label and it's been merged, we should reject it. But then I would need to know or understand why a feature label was added to said issue or merge request to validate that it's not calling out that, hey, this is a feature of GitLab, but more like this is fixing a bug in a feature or something, just to make sure that we're not doing the wrong thing when we're doing picks. I don't want to add unnecessary administrative burden to the persons that are putting together the merge request, but I also don't want to make it hectic for us to try to trace that backwards.
Exactly.
And either delay the patch or unnecessarily remove a pick from a future patch.
Exactly, yeah.
Do we still generate? Not we. I think at some point we were GitLab or someone who were generating the regression labels. And I think we had regressions tied to each milestone. Just like we have peaking to 13.12, we used to have regression 13.12. So perhaps it's something we could look in merge requests and reject them if we don't have that label or either the bug label.
Would it be worth us opening an issue and just running a quick like review of, like, say, the last 5-10 patches, however, whatever number seems sensible, have a look at what labels were on the MRs that went into those and see if we can actually see, like, are there some clear ones we can definitely cut, or others that we could add in that would help us group those things.
I think that's a wise thing to do. All right, I'll create an issue. Myra, I might ask for your feedback to improve the issue description, but at least get it started and tag everyone on it so we can start the conversation.
Sure.
I have one question. Do we use severity labels on patches? Could we make use of that maybe? I mean, for security, I guess we do something like an assessment of the severity, right? And
this is like a S1, P1 feature.
Yeah.
So we need something additional, yeah.
I don't know if we, Myra, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we check severity for upcoming picks for patch releases, do we?
We don't.
Oh, we don't filter on them, but we would,
Okay.
know, we look at them when we are, like, deciding on a patch, right? So yeah, I guess, like, in this case, if we...
for evaluation of when to
Yeah.
start, yeah, we do
Yeah.
use that as our own indicator.
Yeah. But this one is an S1, P1. So we don't, like... Yeah, I feel like this one might end up becoming a special case, which is kind of why I'm interested to see what the past few patch releases look like, just because of 14.0. I think that's what's going to make this one special compared to normal times, right?
I agree.
Oh. Cool. Thanks for raising that up, Skarbek. Let's see what we can do. But I also agree, let's have a think about what we can say on the bug fixes thing on the actual maintenance docs. again, it might be interesting to see what's in there, but maybe we should term that to be like regressions or something, and actually have it where people have a special case where they come to us with like, hey, this is a bug fix, but it's not a regression, and we can have a conversation there.
Well, I think there's two things we'd have a conversation about is if this is going to be a situation where it impacts customers negatively, like this particular merge request is, it could be something that we might want to push into place, even though it is a feature change. But if that's the case, we need to adjust other parts of our policy. Vice versa, we could just better define what a bug actually is and how a bug is applied to a situation versus a code change. Because right now our policy states code changes and bugs, sure. Procedural situations that introduce a bug in the concept of how a person utilizes GitLab is a different way of looking at it and a different perspective that I think we need to address in some way, because we've created a gray area that we need to address.
Yes, exactly.
And
yeah.
I think project managers are going to want to understand what that language change is going to look like if we go either direction.
I agree. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And D, is that related as well?
Unrelated. When I was creating the patch release, for the last 2 attempts at creating a patch release, we've had to manually merge in the preparation branches because DangerBot yells at us and screams at us for a variety of reasons. Today was because we're missing a changelog. I can't remember what it was last time I did a patch release, but this forced me to merge it on the command line and push it. I can't hit the merge button inside of the GitLab UI. I don't know how DangerBot is really configured. I'm curious as if it's something worth an issue to try to improve upon, or if I should just continue doing this via the command line.
Well, we should probably exclude DangerBot from prep branches. There is no reason for us to. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Sorry.
Is it something that we could easily accomplish inside of DangerBot? I'm sorry.
I'm not sure how easy it is, but it should be an issue on the GitLab product. We probably need to modify like a rule on the GitLab CI YAML to avoid triggering DangerBot on prep branches.
I guess, does DangerBot serve any other purpose outside of checking if you have a changelog? Because that's the only thing I noticed today, but
that could be new.
Well, I know we've ignored DangerBot in the past, but now the last 2 attempts at doing a merge, I've been blocked because the pipeline has failed.
That will be
the past, I'm able to.
Yeah, I think my suggestion is a good one though, because the DangerBot addition for changelogs was really just to kind of remind developers and like kind of be a bit of a helping hand. I think if we don't have that, it's not the end of the world, right? Everybody should know of them and there's documentation. But yeah, I'd rather we weren't having to manually merge things in. Myra, would you mind opening an issue just with that suggestion you made about how we might be able to modify things to avoid this?
Yes, of course.
Perfect.
I think we already avoid running danger or specific rules in danger when targeting the stable branch. So we can probably extend that to also use the same sort of rules for prep branches.
Great stuff. Perfect. Jav.
Thanks. I'll keep mine short because we're almost out of time. I just wanted to link to the deployment related incidents, and any help you guys can give for helping to like close them out would be appreciated. Yeah, I'd like them to have timelines and corrective actions as well. Amy, to your point, I think that's good. It's a good point to make. I think the problem here is that maybe the EOC doesn't know even who to bother. I guess I can tell them to talk to the release manager and the developers involved. Some cases it's not like, it depends, I guess, on the incident. But what I've been seeing is like a lot of these incidents just stay open for weeks, and then we've moved on to other things, and there's such a backlog that we have to close them before we get them fully fleshed out.
Yeah, so I think I suppose it depends what you mean by for the types of incidents, the release related. Like, so I think generally when we are expecting that if we raise the incident, then we will close it out. Is that what you are?
I don't think that's the expectation now. I don't think release managers, when they open up an incident, I don't think they're closing it, because it gets assigned to the EOC and it goes through our incident management process.
Okay.
We could formalize that a bit more. I don't know. I think there's some gray area between incidents that like maybe a release manager declares an incident and then it's infrastructure related. It's not like, but there's other ones that like, I don't know, the merge train is blocked and it has nothing to do with infrastructure. So those are like two examples. I don't know, but if you can just keep these on your radar and help to triage and close them, that would be very helpful.
Do you want to work with me on that one in that case, Jarv? Because I think what I see is that perhaps some of these get closed out quicker than I would expect, because I think what we see for a lot of these instances, there's a lag as we kind of get development involved and like quality. And so I think sometimes it's more that it's not that they've been abandoned, but there is more stuff we should do. So if you think that's the case, then yes, assume that we'll handle these. If you think anything has been neglected, then give me a ping and I'll check in on that one. So for example, all of these look pretty fresh in my view on that report.
I mean, I think the oldest is 2 weeks, but there are a couple of those plus a couple that were created last week, and don't look at the updated time, look at the created time. That's what I'm looking at. Maybe we need a root cause for tooling, and that would help signal like, okay, if it's tooling, then we send it over to the release manager. If it's infrastructure, then the EOC can handle it. But let's talk about it, see what works best.
Should we, as part of the incident, actually assign the person? Because I know it gets assigned to the EOC, but I'm assuming they're not always the right person to actually drive these things. So would it actually help that in an incident, or like following an incident, there's actually a literal like, this is the person that's going to own this?
Yeah, that would help. I think the EOC is technically supposed to own it. But
so could we get the EOC to do the delegation in that case? So if they're not sure, could we actually get them to explicitly say like, could this person handle this? And then we kind of know where it stands.
Yeah, let's talk to see.
What I would suggest is often we open these kind of incidents with saying EOC, please don't care, it's deployment related, right? And in this case, it's clear it's not the EOC should take ownership. And in this case, maybe assign yourself as a release manager to this incident, at least additionally, so you are at it and own it. And the EOC can still be owner of this one, or we remove him or she if we think it's not necessary. But I think adding yourself as an assignee makes sense in every case.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's catch up on that one, Jarv, and see what we need to put in place to make that happen. Awesome. Skarbek.
I saw Robert's message, so I'm good on this one.
Cool. There's a really good. It's not sure it's linked, but there's a really quite a good explanation in the issue that Myra's working through as well. Maybe Myra, you can drop the link in, which kind of shows it quite nicely what to expect. One thing maybe for Myra, you to have a think about and perhaps chat to Alessio about is Graham raised a great point that the naming's really confusing, because in his mind, we're talking auto deploy branches, and he wasn't really sure why we've named it coordinated deployments. So it might be a good one to actually have a follow-up where we actually think about the naming for all this stuff.
Do you mean the naming for rename coordinated pipelines?
Yeah, just because Graham was kind of saying like if he's expecting an auto deploy pipeline, it's confusing when the tooling then says, hey, here's a new coordinated deployment. Because you have to mentally know that they're the same thing.
Yeah, okay. I guess it is from my perspective, a bit weird to name it auto-deploy pipelines because not everything in the coordinated pipeline is related to an auto-deploy pipeline. We have the omnibus tagging and the Helm tagging and the deployments. I mean, the deployments are sort of spawned from auto-deploy pipeline, but I'm not sure. Perhaps it is in my head to call it auto-deploy pipeline when it is not referring to an auto-deploy branch. It is, naming is hard.
Yeah, it's more like the coordinated pipeline kicks off the auto-deploy pipelines from my view.
Mm.
The coordinator is responsible for validating our builds, tests, and kicking off the actual auto deploys to each environment. So I think it's just where we are in the layer of what the conversation is.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. In which case, I think we definitely have some docs updates because I think we talk a lot about auto deploys, which makes sense. But now we're kind of wrapping those in something higher up, which I think is going to be hard for people to come in on. But that's fine. That's a separate topic anyway. Awesome. So stop the recording.